let's go ahead and process these images using the tools that I've just talked to you about. So let's go find one that we like. Oh, I've been working on him a bunch. Let's go down here and find one of these that we like. Let's see, where was one? This machine's moving too fast. Here's one that looks pretty cool. All right, let's go check this one out. All right, so one of the things that's wrong with this one is it's got a lot of problems. So this gives us a good thing to fix. All right, first, let's start at the top and look at the white balance. Now, we already did adjust the white balance earlier. Do you remember at the very beginning of this class where I chose a white balance from the gray card she was holding and I applied it? So it's already been applied to her. All right, so we don't have to worry about that at this point. White balance is set. Now let's go to the exposure. All right, it looks a little dark to me. There's quite a big gap here, and even when there starts some data, it's just a tiny little thin line, so there's not really much data going there. So let's go ahead and use the exposure to bring things up a bit and brighten it up. There we go. That's looking good. And let's see what happens if I hit the wall over there. Now we're still okay, but we're getting close to it being a little punchy. All right, if I go that far, you can see I've got the red highlight warning. But actually, the overall exposure looks pretty good, so I might just bring it just back just a tiny bit using recovery. Now, the lighting falls really nicely right here on the glasses, but let's see what it would do if I bring up the fill light, because obviously there's a lot of shadows in here, a lot of shadows in her hair. Now, that's cool because that's the look we were looking for, but let's bring up the fill light just a little bit, see what it does. A little bit of fill light doesn't hurt that, does it? Again, this is a call you have to make. Take a look. Maybe something in there right there. The blacks, I think we're fine. I think the blacks are very saturated. This is kind of a low-key image. You could take them down to 0, see what it looks like. It looks pretty washed out, right? So the default setting of 5 actually looks pretty good. Do we need to add any midtones to it? Let's just see. Maybe a little bit wouldn't hurt, just a tiny bit like that. And contrast? No. Now, let's just flip over to do the contrast part if we want to, the tone curve. And you can take a look. It is set at medium contrast. Remember I said that's the default setting. Let's see what high contrast or strong contrast would look like. Let's take a look back and forth and see which one we like better, medium or high. Yeah, it's just basically a judgment call you'll have to make. I can go with either one of them. I think medium looks okay. I think we'll go with medium. I think if with the strong, take a look. Does tend to plug up some of the detail. You lose a little bit of the detail in her hair there, and so this is such a dark image already. Let's just go ahead and leave it at medium. So the default setting actually looks pretty decent. Now we come back here from some clarity. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of clarity, and first let's add a lot so you can see the effect. Oh yeah, we're seeing quite a bit. Look at that. However, here's the thing. On the face of a man, I would have no problem adding a lot of clarity because it accentuates the texture and detail in a man's face. However, here, watch what it does for the texture and detail in her face. That's right, it accentuates it. And how much do we want to accentuate female skin? Usually we don't. Usually we prefer it to be a little softer. So let's just bring it up, maybe just a tiny bit of clarity, just maybe enough, just maybe to get a little bit on the glasses, and that's about it. Then for the vibrance, I don't know if we need to add any vibrance here at all. Her lipstick is very bright. We had a makeup artist actually do the makeup for her, and the makeup artist was emphatic at that because it's a sunglasses ad. The lipstick has to be very, very vibrant. And she's a professional makeup artist, so I didn't really argue with her. All right. So let's go to the vibrance and just pump it up a little. See, it's not doing that much for the skin tone. It's not really doing much to. You know what though? Doesn't look bad. A little bit looks good. All right. I mean, that's pretty much at this point what I would do. Now, there are some things that I would do over inside of Photoshop. There are some other little tweaks and changes. I would maybe do a little bit of retouching. There is actually a retouching tool here right inside of Camera Raw if you want to do a little bit of basic retouching here. There are just a couple of little bumps and stuff here on her skin. They're very minor, but you can get rid of them here. There actually is a retouch tool up here. And it's very, very easy to use. There are two settings, and there's clone and heal. I leave it on heal as much as I possibly can. The only reason I would ever change it to clone is the healing function of all of Photoshop, not just here in the Camera Raw, does not like to be near an edge of anything. So if your object that you want to retouch, like these two little bumps that I'm looking at right here, let me zoom in so you can see them a little better, like these two little bumps right here, they're all by themselves. They're not touching anything. They're not up against her hair or anything. That's when healing works great. If these bumps were right against that hair or something over there, what happens is when you heal, it smudges the area. That's when I would switch to clone. So I leave this set to heal almost all the time. All right? And then you're basically going to just bring out a little circle over this area. Let go. It picks a nearby area without a bump, and then you're done. I mean, that's pretty much it. If you don't like where it went to, you can move this and say, well, let's try over here. And actually, this spot looks better. It was kind of picking up an adjacent bump over there. So basically, that's what you're going to do. Just kind of draw your little circle. It's going to pick an area that thinks it's clear. If you don't agree with the area that Camera Raw chose, you can move to a different area and it gets rid of those. And she's got one more right there. And I'm just clicking and dragging. It draws out a circle. And you can just pick a spot for that. And you can go make your way around here using here and just see there's a couple little spots here. Let's see if we can get away with this one without any smudging because it's awfully close. So we're going to make a smaller, let's undo that altogether. I just pressed Command Z on my keyboard or Control Z on a PC, and let's just get kind of right at the edge there and just pull out to where it covers it. See what spot it picks. Not bad. Let's try over here. Kind of there, and a couple of little spots you can just drop in here and there just for fun, just to clean things up. And it's very quick now. You're just going to click and drag out right over the spot there, and here's a little spot here. And again, if it picks a bad spot, because I mean it could accidentally, pick her eyebrow or something, and it would be very obvious. All right, here's a tricky one. Look at this hair in here. Let's see if we can get that out of there. See? This is a perfect example. See how it actually chose the other hair? So let's just move this to a different area, and it fixes it. Didn't blur. I think we're okay there. Now, so what would you do in these situations when you do have these? You really can't do it that well here. There are other little things that you'd want to fix, but you'd go over to Photoshop for those. Like, see that bump that's kind of right there in the middle of a hair? That's the kind of stuff you'd go over to Photoshop for. And there's a little something right there. It looks like it's something on the glasses themselves. And just a couple little bumps here and there. And you know what, though? I will tell you, if I'm doing more than just 2 or 3 of these, it's honestly faster to do it inside of Photoshop than it is here. It's faster to just take the healing brush or the spot healing brush and just not paint, but just click once than it is to click and drag over these and kind of move them around. So I think it's just easier to do. All right? So now when you switch off of this tool, let's go ahead and back off. Of course, if you decide you've made a mistake and you didn't want to do any of this, you can just hit clear all. This is the overlay. That's the little overlay that shows where all these little changes are. And of course, you can just change tools to whatever else that you want, and the changes are applied. Okay? So that's that. Again, you don't have to do it here, but if it's just minor stuff and you think, well, you know what, this is pretty much it. I'm just going to open the image. I want to do these changes, and I'm just going to save it. I don't really need to go over to Photoshop. I'm just going to go ahead and hit done. Then you're set right like you are. You don't have to go over to Photoshop. But for heavier retouching, you definitely need to head into the full program.